Steam railways have always represented the epitome of railways in their heyday. The 12.5 miles on the East Lancashire Railway gives steam a great chance to show their mettle with inclines over the Metrolink, up the Broadfield bank to Haywood and northwards to Ramsbottom and Rawtenstall. The retention of the old steam sheds at Buckley Wells also preserves the steamy atmosphere of these wonderful engines at rest and in preparation. 2007 is the 20th anniversary of passenger services from Bury to Ramsbottom on the E.L.R, which was celebrated with style earlier this year. The major steam events in January, June and October were attended by locomotives representing the four main pre-grouping companies of the London, Midland and Scottish Railway, the Great Western Railway, the Southern Railway and of course the London and North Eastern Railway. And that's not to forget the significant classes of locomotives that represent the post-grouping British Railways. In May 2007, our 1940s wartime weekend gave us four of the finest steam engines that would actually have operated through the wartime period. And of course, the mainline connection at Castleton allows the East Lancashire Railway to act as a servicing base for the many of the steam locomotives that travel the country on the national network. Our cameras have been able to capture steam on the main line at locations around Manchester and up and down the East Lancashire Railway. And so, without further ado, let's return to part 2 of steam on the East Lancashire Railway between January and November 2007. July the 25th to the 29th is the 20th anniversary of passenger services to Ramsbottom, and it was a reenactment of our reopening special, and indeed a celebration of our services steam and diesel up and down the Irwell Valley and onwards to Haywood. Services along the line were split into 3 sections, and the City of Truro here is preparing to take its train on the first section, which is from Bury to Haywood. Our reenactment duo, consisting of the 060, the Long Manchester Ship Canal Tank number 70 and NCB number 140, also an 060, are seen heading through Bolton Street as we attempt in the rather blustery and very wet weather to erect a poster. Headboard on, watering up, let's get ready to go. The NCB tank number 140 was to stand in place of our original number 1, which was also an 060 RSH. Without the help of the local authorities, our railway certainly wouldn't be where it is today, and our honoured guests arrive ready for the celebratory journey northwards. The mayors from Bury, Rochdale and Rossendale all travelled with us.
Stand back from the edge of the platform, please.
And to the tunes of Hail the Conquering Hero Comes, our duo enter platform 3 at Bolton Street. And sadly, after many hours of work, we had to write off our banner. And as it continues to absolutely pour down here in the middle of July, let's watch our duo head northwards with the train for Ramsbottom. Ramsbottom had fared no better with the weather, and likewise their banner was also to bite the dust before our duo was to arrive to celebrate 20 years of services to Ramsbottom. And on arrival at Ramsbottom, it was chance for a photo opportunity for our guests, for the locomotives to water up and run round ready to take the train back to Bury. Our guests had the great advantage of a brand new completed canopy, and so were relatively dry for the unveiling of our celebratory plaques. And the original stone can still be seen outside the station. Our reenactment went as far as personnel, and indeed Dr. Barry Worthington is one of our longest serving guards here on the E.L.R. and was indeed the first guard on the first train to Ramsbottom. And whilst we had been celebrating in Ramsbottom, City of Truro had been running services up to Haywood.
Okay, now I'm going down to the far end now. On the other side.
And likewise the guard on our Haywood train was Mr. Colin Warwork, again a very long-serving member here on the East Lancashire Railway. With City of Truro at Haywood, our returning doubleheader appears into platform 2, where the dignitaries could leave and head to the Elizabethan Hall. And here in the Elizabethan Hall we were able to have a celebration dinner and the presentation of 20 and 30 year certificates for long-serving members of the East Lancs Railway. Returning from its second run to Ramsbottom, our double-heading celebratory train. And our reopening special on its run round through platform 4 was able to stop and water up, and it was here we were able to honour both the drivers with their long service certificates. Congratulations to both of you gentlemen. With the route clear, City of Truro is then able to run round its stock via platform 4. For the next 2 days, our industrial friends helped run services northwards to Ramsbottom, and here on the 26th we can see those very same services. And passing forward to the 27th, we can see NCB number 140 heading back into the station, ready to double head southwards with number 70. And let's not forget the engineering saviour of the 25th of July, our newly completed canopy at Ramsbottom Station. And I'm sure you'll agree, it really does look the business. An absolute credit to those engineers who spent November last year erecting it. And to complete our views of the 20th anniversary celebration, let's head onwards to the 28th of July, where full length of the line services predominated. And besides a ride, you could also buy some rather marvellous nameplates, number plates or headboards from our stalls on the platform. And through the weekend our little industrials were also not forgotten. And we can see that 140, the NCB 060, runs round its stock ready to head northwards to Ramsbottom. As Leander stands by and our Class 40 takes over, let's head behind the diesel shed here and take a look at the celebrations in the Castlecroft yard, our now buried transport museum owned by the bus people. We can see that here we also had 3 traction engines on display. And of course this was a great opportunity for us to advertise the fact that we need only a few more pence to help us preserve the roof and convert the innards of our transport museum into what would be a superb new development. If you'd like to help us, why not buy a slate? From our celebrations down on Bury Bolton Street, let's head northwards to Rawtenstall. This was the centenary of the Rawtenstall buses, and a huge cavalcade had been organised on the Sunday. The buses, as you can see, were gathered here in the car park, and a magnificent view they made as well. Meanwhile, on the station, if you fancied driving a locomotive, our 040 Peckett was on hand, under the capable instructions of Mr. Frank Cronin. And as our packet disappears off to the signal box, these are our final views of the 20th anniversary celebration. Heading southwards into Ramsbottom on September the 8th, we find our LMS theme day, when 3 LMS steam locos were running. Our first one we'll see here is the Ginty. And on arrival in Bury Bolton Street, we see the departure of Leander. And returning back to Ramsbottom, we see Leander northbound. Our third locomotive has a tenuous link with the LMS. 76079 was actually built in the LMS workshops at Horwich. And as we leave Leander heading northwards with the diner, let us head south and into the steam sheds and take a look at the progress there. Here in October, the tender for 44871 is having some work undertaken on it, and the frames have been brought into the workshop to be looked at and generally overhauled. Let's just take a closer look at the bits and pieces associated with the frame. In front of our Black 5 frames is some of the bread and butter work for Riley Engineering and another boiler in Fettle. Work was also being undertaken on the boiler and firebox for 44871. And if we take a look at some of the detail here, we can see where the rivets have been taken out and some new ones are being inserted. A quantum leap forward for the XE Yates and Duxbury's 040 Peckett. What a wonderful brass dome and copper top to the chimney. This is going to make a wonderful addition to the railway when it's completed. Let's just take a look at the finer details. Working on the main line, Black 5 at 45231 had major problems, and as we can see here, the cylinder block itself had been removed and sent away for some further works. Our very own Ginty was also inside the workshops having works undertaken on it, on the line adjacent to the Black 5 and the Crown. The boilers from these two have been sent away for further works. The two tenders sit behind the two chassis, and this one here with the holes put in it is obviously that of 42765, the Crown. Having restarted its mainline career, 71000 had to come back into the sheds to have some work undertaken on the tubes. Still in front of it, 92214, the 9F was also having some work undertaken with the lagging put to its firebox. And outside the works, the tender for 825 and the main chassis still awaiting attention. We leap forward then into the 14th of October and take a look at the undercoat which has been applied to the packet at the back of the steam sheds. The 20th of October, Ian Riley's pair with the Dalesman through Clifton Junction. and the pair is captured that very evening returning to Shed through Salford Central. Our final event of 2007 is the October Steam event. This was quite different from those that had been previously in that we had a tremendous amount of Great Western flavour, and we also had a visit from an E.L.R locomotive. Our first GWR is the 280 number 3802, seen here on the photo charter first thing on the Saturday morning. Our photo charter heads northwards to Ramsbottom, and our next northbound over Burrs is the Standard 4 with Leander. Heading around the corner with our train to Olive Sidings, we can see the returning 280. R280 left the freight in Bury and went onto the back of the next northbound passenger train, which was Great Western indeed, because on the front, a now resident Kinlet Hall. Our passenger then made way for a truly LMS freight. 4R Ginty was taking it onwards to Ramsbottom. Freights are rarely run on preserved railways, and this is a great opportunity to train guards up in the old skills of freight guarding. And our next northbound indeed is truly spectacular, the 3-cylinder 262 4771. Around the corner at Springside Farm, our 2 GWR locomotives are seen double heading southwards. to be followed shortly by our Ginty with the freight. Ian Riley's pocket rocket is then seen northwards over Burrs. We capture the Standard 4 southbound just north of Irwell Vale. To the south of Irwell Vale are the Remnant Kings, a series of statues representing the cotton industry, and it's here that we're able to pick up our two Great Western locomotives again, this time heading northwards into Irwell Vale. The pair are seen returning north of Ramsbottom. Following our standard 4 northwards was the Great Western 280-3802, and it's seen here entering the sidings just north of Ramsbottom with the freight.
Good idea.
We've left some wood
Yeah.
in both brake vans and coal.
Okay. So we can put the fire on.
Yeah.
That'll be nice.
With our standard 4 safely in the station, 5690 Leander gives a good account of itself northbound to Roppenstall. With the light beginning to fade, the signals are dropped and 3802 heads south on its final journey to Bury Bolton Street. From a very busy Saturday, we head to a very wet Sunday morning on shed at Bury Steam Sheds. Here we pick up the two Great Western locomotives and of course the other locos that are taking part in our event this morning. A very evocative view of steam on sheds, I'm sure you'll agree. LMS, E.L.R and Great Western. And our Southern Region tender here is obviously off its wheels. Anyway, 4771 was the locomotive that went through the photo charter that day and arrived safely here in Ramsbottom Sidings. And it gave our guard a chance to check the stock before heading southwards again. And through the pouring rain on arrival at Bury Bolton Street, the scene was something like this. With both signals set, our top and tail Great Western train heads northwards through Bury North Tunnel. The arrival of the Standard 4 parallels the freight as it leaves out of platform 2. Passing through the tunnel, we're able to see the small signal, and on the other side, green arrow waiting to head back onto its train. Our freight heads northwards and on into the sidings at Ramsbottom. Once safely in the station, our Great Western duo make way for the 262 E.L.R locomotive Green Arrow. With the two Great Westerns safely in at Bury Bolton Street, our Ginty then heads southward once again with the second of our freight trains of the day. And heading to the south side of Ramsbottom, we catch a northbound Standard 4. A quick hike over the two bridges, and our next northbound, Leander, on a freight. The sun remained high as we headed to the north side of Somerset Station for a spectacular departure. And for our final shot we head to Bury Bolton Street and see our very own Ginty bringing the freight back into the station after an absolutely marvellous steam event.